Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing, topping our newscast merely hours after Governor Kenneth Mapp's press conference on Monday. Venza officially announced the impending sale of part of its facility on St. Croix. The governor also announced the filing of a lawsuit based on benefits lost to the people of the Virgin Islands. News 2's April Knight has that story.
Venza is selling its storage terminal assets. The company announced the confirmation Monday after Governor Kenneth Mapp's press conference that same morning. Venza confirmed that it's selling only its storage terminal assets to Lime Tree Holdings. It's a subsidiary of ArcLight Capital Partners, a private equity firm out of Boston.
The remaining assets of the refinery will remain available for sale, and ArcLight does not foreclose any opportunity to purchase it and has no objections to selling it.
Meanwhile, other companies will have the opportunity to bid for Venza's assets if they can beat Lime Tree Holdings' offer. But first, Venza is filing for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, allowing it to sell the terminal under court supervision and pay off its obligations to the Virgin Islands. Just how much those obligations are remain in contention, especially after Governor Mapp's announcement of a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against Hess Corporation.
Seeking a 100% return of all of our tax exemptions and incentives given since 1965. This amounts to approximately or in excess of $6.5 billion.
Late Monday afternoon, Government House also sent out another release saying that the government filed a lawsuit against Hess Corporation for $1.5 billion in damages. According to the governor, that amount represents the benefits that the company owed to the people of the Virgin Islands from 2012 when Venza shut down to 2022 when it was supposed to shut down, according to its agreement with the VI government. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
On Tuesday afternoon, the Senate Finance Committee met on St. Thomas and took testimony from the governor's cabinet. They discussed a couple of budget bills and also spoke about various issues affecting the territory's finances, including the lack of taxation for liquor and cigarettes.
Wouldn't we receive a whole lot more money in receivables if we spread that tax to alcohol and cigarettes?
Well, you know,
Mr. Pickering, the answer is yes or no.
No, not necessarily, because you know, you could tax to a point of diminishing returns.
I would like us colleagues, because we've spoken about it for so long, why aren't we considering alcohol and cigarettes? Because nobody have the courage, all right?
Well, here's an update. The St. Croix Rescue team that went to Dominica to assist in relief efforts, they're back in the territory. They held a press conference Tuesday to talk about the trip as well as how much help is still needed. News 2's Erica Parsons has more.
Muddy streets and broken buildings were some of the sites that the St. Croix Rescue team met on their visit to aid relief efforts in Dominica.
There, was a lot of landslides that had happened and washed out roads.
But it was the people's spirits that made the greatest impression.
The Dominican people are resilient, and I saw no sad faces there. I saw nobody depressed.
We were well received and appreciated.
The three-member team left St. Croix September 6th to provide medical and technical aid.
I dealt mostly with the medical aspect of our response. So I was on the ambulance with the local fire service.
My job pretty much was I was on the ground itself. Did a lot of digging out houses, and we actually did a school.
Every bridge and every gut, every passage that we could pass and see was washed out and water was still running. I had to install a zip line on day 3 that the people in that neighborhood can get their supplies and food stuff across to their family because they actually had no means of getting that done.
Members from the VI's Dominica Relief Task Force arrived in Dominica on September 6th as well. They met with the administration there.
That was very good because it allowed us to have a better understanding of exactly what their specific needs were, not what we thought their needs were. And so coming back on the ground, it helped us to coordinate what the specific medical resources and medical supplies and needs were.
Team members say the most urgent need right now is water and medicine. Erica Parsons, News 2.
Well, St. Croix Rescue says 2 trailers are filled and ready to be shipped to Dominica on Saturday. And the task force transported boxes of medicine to Dominica thanks to Frederick said Healthcare, EMS, and Dr. Mormon. Coastal Air provided free travel for the St. Croix Rescue team. Well, meanwhile, last Saturday, Ministry of Pastors as well as many first responders boarded their second flight to Dominica from St. Thomas St. John. The group met at Ace Air Charter Services near UVI. Again, St. Thomas and St. John Rescue joined together collaboratively and sent out 9 members from the district, consisting of paramedics, emergency medical technicians, urban search and rescue specialists, fire rescue, hazmat coordinators, St. Thomas Rescue Marine Unit, mass casualty specialist, and other cross-trained personnel having multiple roles in the rescue squads. The team relieved those personnel first on site after the storm. Their main functions, they say, are to assist fire, search, and rescue teams that are stationed throughout the island. On Monday, September 14th, turn our attention to crime reports. At roughly 11:42 a.m., the 911 emergency call center received a report of a robbery at 3G's Jewelry and Repairs located along Stortiva Gata. Officers responded and received a second transmission, they say, indicating that 2 male suspects had left the 3G's Jewelry and Repairs and were walking in a westerly direction along Main Street towards Market Street. One male suspect was described as dark in complexion and the other light complexion. Both men, they say, wore straw hats and were armed with handguns. No one was injured during the robbery. The pair fled the area with an undetermined amount of cash and jewelry. Police say on Sunday, September 13th at 5:20 a.m., officers responded to a report of a gunshot victim seeking treatment at the Schneider Hospital. Once at the medical facility, the officers met with the victim, a 27-year-old male who'd sustained a gunshot wound to the right side of his head. According to the victim, he'd been the occupant in the back seat of a vehicle departing from the parking lot of Four Winds Plaza at roughly 5 a.m. when gunshots suddenly erupted and a projectile penetrated the rear glass of the vehicle he was in. The incident is under investigation by the Criminal Investigation Bureau. Call the police if you have any information that can assist. Governor Kenneth Mapp is taking the fight to the streets, promising repercussions for the violence plaguing the VI. During last week's Patriot Day ceremony, the chief executive outlined his administration's plans for responding to the rise in violent crimes. News2's Erica Parsons has that story.
Sandy, in listening to Governor Mapp on Friday, it almost sounded as if he wants to be a vigilante against the bad guys. You could tell from his talk that he's fed up, and I think we're going to see some changes when it comes to fighting crime.
I have had enough, and I know that you have had enough.
A somber Governor Mapp spoke on Patriot Day of the innocent lives taken in the 9/11 tragedy and the first responders who sacrificed their lives to save others. But he also spoke of the rise in violent crimes locally.
We continue to bury our youth every week.
The chief executive plans to step up the crime-fighting initiatives. Seizing firearms and airport luggage screenings are no longer enough. The governor wants specific criminals targeted.
I have asked the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General and the Police Commissioner, if we know this, we know who these people are, why are we not shadowing them? Why are we not targeting them? Why are we not stopping them in the afternoon and asking them, how is your day?
Mr. Mapp says he has the support and resources of the federal government, and with that power behind local law enforcement, they plan to hit hard.
There are going to be days that some of the citizens will be upset by the tactics that we will be deploying and the actions that we will be taking. Our days of getting it done politically correct are coming to a screeching halt. I am not asking the law enforcement community to violate anyone's civil rights. I am not asking anyone to break the law. But I'm asking my law enforcement communities, I'm asking the federal government to do what is necessary and to use a heavy hand in identifying and targeting criminals in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
The very next CAPA meeting will be held on Monday, September 21st. Mark that on the calendar, and that will be at the Faith Christian Fellowship Church from 6 to 7:30 p.m. They're calling all Hidden Valley residents. They say this is your opportunity to discuss crime and other concerns. They will also discuss the street addressing initiative to improve the 911 services. Again, that's Monday, September 21st. Turning our attention overseas, the Delta State University professor killed in an on-campus shooting Monday grew up in a small Kansas town that is now mourning his loss. Ethan Schmidt was remembered as very smart, kind, and caring. He published a book recently called Native Americans in the American Revolution. Schmidt was supposed to come home to Peabody, Kansas, to talk to fourth graders about Native Americans over Thanksgiving break. Meanwhile, tensions are building up ahead of the CNN Republican debate scheduled Wednesday night. Republican front-runner Donald Trump is still dominating in the polls, and the other Republican hopefuls are talking about what their strategy will be during tomorrow night's debates to get ahead. Ben Carson is now right behind Trump in the polls, with Jeb Bush in third. Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the stock exchange with our stock market watch. As you can see, everything up there. The Dow 228, NASDAQ 54, S&P 500 25. Well, coming up on News 2, highlights from two events that showcases VI and Caribbean culture. Plus, we'll have the latest on the weather as we continue our hurricane season watch. Welcome back. The Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority has scheduled an electrical service interruption to a portion of St. Thomas Feeder 9D. That's for Wednesday, September 16th from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. They say approximately 102 customers from the Friedenhoy Ballpark to Compass Point and above the National Guard Armory will be affected, while crews replace a burnt pole by the entrance to Compass Point. While the work is in progress, motorists are advised to use extreme caution and observe traffic directions. WAP officials say every effort will be made to restore service as quickly as possible. In order to ensure the safety of our children, the Virgin Islands Department of Education is reminding the motoring public that all vehicles must come to a complete stop when school bus stop arms and flashing lights are activated. They say on occasion, motorists ignore these safety mechanisms put in place on school buses, creating dangerous situations for our children. Motorists are urged to pay close attention while driving in front or behind a school bus. Students are also urged to follow the rules of the bus in order to ensure their safety, as well as exercise crosswalk safety. And the streets of downtown Charlotte Amalie, if you missed it, saw a stream of people dressed in white on Sunday. There was dancing and music and even a reenactment, and it's all in recognition of one event, the 10th annual Dollar for Dollar Culture and History Tour. News 2's April Knight has details.
It's an event that celebrates tradition and history and the passion for freedom and justice of Virgin Islanders. The annual Dollar for Dollar Culture and History Tour gathered hundreds to St. Thomas on Saturday to commemorate the 1892 strike of coal workers on St. Thomas who demanded fair wages.
Even then, when people saw that they were not being treated fairly, they thought it was important to make their voices heard.
The Saturday event featured traditional music and dancing, as well as a reenactment.
We go march down this place till we get our dollar for dollar.
It's really an interactive way of learning about the history of the coaling industry in St. Thomas.
10 years ago, 3 young Virgin Islands women, Aisha Morris, Dara Cooper, and Jawe David, started the tour, which attracted a larger crowd every year. This year is special for Dollar for Dollar. On top of their 10th anniversary, they're honoring a remarkable woman that they lost 2 years ago.
We celebrate Mary Ann Christopher, our own queen, who has helped us to keep this tradition alive.
Mary Ann Christopher played Queen Keziah for a long time until September 2013, when she passed away in Maryland in a car accident. But for her friends, she'll always be remembered in every Dollar for Dollar tour. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
And congratulations to the Dollar for Dollar Committee for making a difference in the VI. Well, the Virgin Islands had some major exposure in the tri-state area recently after the Department of Tourism's all-out media and marketing blitz that was held on Labor Day weekend. From New York City Caribbean cultural events to television and even at a Yankee game. News News correspondent Natafa Remain rode along for the busy 5 days and brings us this story.
The territory received some very nice exposure over Labor Day weekend in New York City, first on Fox 5. Governor Kenneth Mapp and the Department of Tourism stopped by the live broadcast, sharing with anchors why the USVI is the #1 destination in the Caribbean. This exposure paid dividends to the territory, as Fox 5 is one of the top broadcast news channels in the New York area. That night, the Department of Tourism partnered with the Yankee organization for USVI Night. U.S. Virgin Islands culture was on full display for the fans on hand for the game. The next day, it was all about us, Virgin Islanders living in the tri-state area, as well as travel industry journalists who were invited by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism to cruise the Hudson. There were some very special guests on hand who took the time out to spend some quality time with the many Virgin Islanders who came out.
I like giving back to the community, and I mean, just showing that I'm all about St. Croix and showing that I'm from home and that I care about it as much as I can is something very important to me.
The next day, all roads led to Harlem for the Caribbean Cultural Festival presented by the Virgin Islands United.
This event is really the largest celebration of the culture and music of the U.S. Virgin Islands.
On Labor Day Monday, Brooklyn was the place to be. The Department of Tourism set up a welcoming booth on Eastern Parkway, right in the heart of the parade route, with exposure to tens of thousands of people.
We really want to encourage the Caribbean diaspora as a whole to look at the Virgin Islands as a vacation opportunity.
The festivities of the West Indian Day Parade is well underway, and kicking off this year's parade was one of our own, the Honorable Kenneth Mapp, who was this year's Grand Marshal, opening up the festivities in Brooklyn, VI style.
We spent the week promoting the Virgin Islands, doing a lot of media events, meeting with a lot of travel writers and meeting planners and event planners. And going tomorrow, starting with some folks who want to invest and open business with the Virgin Islands.
From Brooklyn, New York, I'm Natafa Romaine for News 2.
The territory was able to gain an audience of over 8 million people. Well, this is the anniversary of one of the big ones. September 1995, Hurricane Marilyn hit the VI with winds of more than 100 miles per hour. President Clinton declared the Virgin Islands a disaster area, and the island's governor at the time, Roy Schneider, ordered a curfew while the National Guard policed the streets. In Puerto Rico, the small islands of Vieques and Culebra were also declared federal disaster zones. Here's our hurricane awareness segment from Vitima.
I experienced Hurricane Hugo. I was actually a military police at the time in the Virgin Islands National Guard. And I also experienced Marilyn. I tell people all the time, when I came to St. Thomas after Marilyn, I was your human traffic light by Niski Center. I did that for 2 months as a military police. But during any significant storm, the key becomes, and I go back to it again, how well are you prepared? And I would say from Hurricane Hugo to Marilyn to Omar to now, there's so many things that has improved in Vitima, in FEMA as well, that I guarantee you it will not be the same outcome. Even the way we had to begin to build after Marilyn, there's a lot of great things that have happened that has prepared us going forward. And we haven't had a significant hurricane event in 5 years. And again, that's why I will plead to the public to not get relaxed. Just go ahead and continue to prepare. It's better to be prepared and nothing happens as to not be prepared and then something happens.
And of course, Bernie has the latest on any development lurking out there that's coming up next. We'll be right back.